Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday edition of Palmetto Sports Daily. Rick Henry here in Columbia, Kevin Bilodeau in Charleston, Carmine Jamay in the upstate. And we're going to lead off talking some college baseball, focusing on the South Carolina Gamecocks right now. They have a coaching vacancy. It's been open since March 21st when they parted ways with Paul Maneri. Monty Lee became the interim head coach, got him through the season. He is not going to be retained. So who is going to be that next guy? Well, we've got Kevin Schnall down at Coastal Carolina. He seems to be the leading contender. Another name that is being mentioned prominently is Steve Sabins, the West Virginia head coach. West Virginia has advanced to the Super Regionals, while Schnall is, well, he's got some free time now because Coastal Carolina goes 0-2 in the regionals. And so the Chanticleers are back home 1 year after they made it all the way to the College World Series in Omaha, finishing as the runner-up. And so I know a lot of the fans, if you ask them, they would like to see him become USC's next head coach. He was at Coastal Carolina for like 11 or 12 years, left to go to Central Florida as an assistant for a few years, and returned to Coastal Carolina. And last season was his first as the head coach. Took them to the College World Series, back in the playoffs this year, and they have become the preeminent baseball program in the state of South Carolina. And that's saying a lot when you look at South Carolina. Just we go back to 2012, they completed a three consecutive years run to the College World Series, won two national championships, played for another. You look at Clemson, all the trips they've made to Omaha. They haven't won a national championship yet. So if he could do that at Coastal Carolina, guys, can he come here to South Carolina and do the same?
Yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of things to consider, and basically in the post-game press conference, he listed off a bunch of those accolades, Rick, and especially in the last decade. I mean, you look at the College World Series championship in 2016, that Schnall was the right-hand man to Gary Gilmore. He was the associate head coach, recruiting coordinator on that Coastal team that won it all, and then brought them, like you said, back there just last season to the championship series as the first-year head coach. So I don't know if it's a first-year wonder with Schnall, and then if the Gamecocks hire him, maybe they have a great run in the first year, because first year as recruiting coordinator, they won it all in 2016. First year as head coach, he said the record for wins in the entire country last year with 56, Sun Belt Conference regular season tournament championship for them. So maybe first year with the Gamecocks would be a similar situation as well. But he's got to be a top leading candidate, and he didn't confirm or deny if he was either pursuing this job, going after it, or where it stood. But Kevin, I mean, you know, Schnall's been in the two separate stints that Rick mentioned. He's been at Coastal in some capacity as a baseball coach for 20 years, more than 20 years in those two separate stints. He likes Coastal a lot, obviously, built it up to be this program that's incredible, a national power every single year, even though they're from the Sun Belt Conference. But you have to like your school an incredible amount to stick there for a $500,000 a year salary, if the Gamecocks end up offering him this is, and stay there and neglect a 3 times, probably, or maybe more, pay increase, because Paul Maneri was making $1.3 million as basically a buddy of Ray Tanner, who he brought in and came out of retirement. So he's not paying top dollar for Paul Maneri. And now if you hire an up-and-coming star head coach, even though he's been in the game for decades now, Kevin Schnall, that's going to require, you have to assume, even more money than that, so at least $1.5 million. So how can he turn down if he's offered a 3 times pay increase like that? I mean, he can like Coastal a lot, but I don't know if you can like it that much.
Yeah, the money is always one thing, but to me, Carmine, the bigger thing when you get to head coaches at this level, it becomes an ego thing. And he's built this program up to where they're a national championship contender over the last couple of years. Now he's going to want to prove that he can do that at the highest level, and that's the SEC. And South Carolina is probably the job that he is best suited for to take this program to the next level. If I'm South Carolina, I have questions about Schnall though as well. He's only been this head coach for a couple of years, and he talked about after that loss to Florida State the other day how his team has overcome so much turmoil this year. But if you look at the last month or so for Coastal Carolina, it was a downslide, especially those last couple of weeks where they lost that final series. They had troubles on Sundays throughout this entire year, but they lost that final regular season series to Louisiana that cost them the Sun Belt regular season championship. They go 2 in barbecue, or I think it was actually 3 games in the Sun Belt tournament that they lost. They won 1 and lost 2, both to Louisiana again. And then they go 2 in barbecue in the NCAA tournament. So, I'm wondering, was it not just injuries and stuff that Coastal was dealing with? Because they were dealing with that early on in the year as well. Was it the distraction of Schnall being up for the South Carolina job that kind of caused them to have problems towards the end of the year? And if that's so, if he's not the kind of coach that can pull a team out of that and keep them focused on what's ahead of them, is that something you want to bring to Columbia? Is he the guy to lead this Gamecocks program? Rick, you mentioned some other candidates. Steve Saban's the guy at West Virginia. Like you said, he's brought them to a super regional. I have a buddy who's a reporter in West Virginia. I was asking him about Saban's earlier this morning. His direct quote was, "If you take Steve Saban's from West Virginia, the state will riot." So that's something to think about going in. And another guy that I think we haven't really heard of, but I'm wondering why we haven't heard of, and that's Skylar Meade, the head coach over at Troy, the former pitching coach under Mark Kingston at South Carolina. He's brought this Troy team to a super regional now. Why is he not a name that, we're hearing a little bit more of, Rick?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I mean, that's a great job that he's doing there at Troy. And going back to Kevin Schnall, you made some excellent points there, Kevin. And one thing that I've been thinking about, he's been coaching in the Sun Belt. You come to the SEC, how many regular season wins are you going to get playing in the Southeastern Conference? You look at how many SEC teams are advancing to the Super Regionals. You could have
Yeah.
4 teams or more in Omaha to play for the national championship. And if you're not racking up those regular season wins like you did in the Sun Belt, that's going to affect you when it comes to seeding in the national tournament. And from my experience covering college baseball and looking at postseason results, if you're not hosting a super regional, your chances of making to Omaha are not that good. You look at South Carolina in the Ray Tanner years, you know how many super regionals they won on the road? Just one. And they won it at Coastal Carolina. So they only won a super regional. They have not won a super regional outside the borders of South Carolina.
Yeah, and while Coastal Carolina's end of the season was a big disappointment after they went, like I said, 2 and out against Florida State this past weekend in the Tallahassee Regional, for the Citadel, kind of a different feeling. The Bulldogs not just happy to be there. They kept saying all last week they were going down to Atlanta to try to win this regional. They did get a victory on Saturday night when they won an elimination game against Illinois Chicago in walk-off fashion. Really dramatic win for the Bulldogs there as they took that one. But they did lose a couple of games to Oklahoma, and that was what knocked them out of the Atlanta Regional. Still, though, as you look back on this one, just a huge season for the Citadel as they came back to the Low Country yesterday afternoon. And for this entire team, really proud of everything they accomplished. Russell Triplett in his second season with the Bulldogs. Now, this is a guy that, we're going to start hearing his name a little bit if they continue having success over at Riley Park. I talked to someone a couple of weeks ago. It said, and Carmine, you might be able to talk about this a little bit more as well. He doesn't think that any change is imminent over at Clemson, but if something were to happen in the next year or two, Russell Triplett, a Clemson alum who's now had some success at the Division II level and now here at this level at the Citadel, he might be a guy that the Tigers start considering and maybe looking to bring upon if there's a change to be made here in the coming couple of years, Carmine.
And that's a very interesting point there, Kevin, because you can't underestimate those ties to now, like we said, there's nothing right away at Clemson. And if Eric Bakich turns it around, which we all expect, there won't be. But, if the trend continues, you never know. If it's a year or two similar to what this season was, you never know what can happen. But you can't underestimate those ties, like you mentioned, to the Gamecocks with the Troy coach. That'd be a great story coming back, or in this case, with the Clemson connection. But I loved the run, Kevin, and Zach Hunt with the Citadel with those construction/gardening yellow gloves that he hit the RBI single with. Just an incredible run. And speaking of incredible runs, also the Braves, of course, the best record in the major leagues, 40-20 right now. They are hosting the Toronto Blue Jays, which of course made it all the way to the World Series, finished runner-up for baseball's Pro Championship just last season. So this should be an interesting one. But guys, the big run that we're talking about is Ronald Acuña Jr. has hit 5 home runs in the last 4 games. Now, he only has 7 all season. So he's hit almost all of his home runs basically in the last week. He just broke the Braves record for leadoff home runs with 39 in their last game against the Cincinnati Reds, a series they won, but they lost the last game. So Ronald Acuña Jr. went a month without hitting a single home run, Rick, and now he's hit 5 home runs in 4 games. So we'll see if he's able to do that tonight. What are your guys' thoughts on if he can keep this streak going?
Yeah, well, the way he's playing right now, but I want to warn you guys, the Braves may be due for a slide because now I'm invested in them. Last season, my son was really all in on the Braves. He called me one night going home. He said, "Hey, Braves are playing. When you get home, tune in." And he blamed me because since that night last year, that was when they went down the tubes. So now I'm invested again. I watched them on Sunday when Acuna first pitch of the game, home run. I'm all in with the Braves. I hope I don't jinx them.
Uh-oh.
Kevin?
Uh-oh.
Wait, how is this your fault, Rick? Your son called you and told you to turn it on. It seems like he is not picking the phone. Atlanta might have gone the whole series last year.
You know, I agree with you there. And this season, he said, "Oh, man, I remember when you started watching the Braves last year, it all went downhill." So he doesn't want me invested, but he keeps calling me and said, "Hey, you're watching the Braves, you're watching the Braves." So it's going to be his fault again if it goes south for the Braves. All right, that's going to do it for this segment of Palmetto Sports Daily. We're going to take a timeout. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Palmetto Sports Daily. Now, yesterday, the list of nominees for the College Football Hall of Fame 2027 class, that list was released, and 4 guys with ties to the Palmetto State are on the ballot. I know yesterday we talked about Sammy Watkins, and there he is. He was a 2-time first-team All-American, a 3-time All-AC selection. He's the Tigers' all-time career leader with nearly 3,400 receiving yards. Now, another former Tiger is also among the nominees, and that would be defensive back Donnell Wolford. He's a 2-time first-team All-American. And a Camden High grad also on the ballot, receiver Bobby Ingram. He starred at Penn State, becoming a first-team All-American and recipient of the Bolitnikoff Award as the nation's top receiver. And how about former Gamecock head coach Jim Carlin? He coached Heisman Trophy winner George Rogers. He also coached at West Virginia and Texas Tech. He had 13 winning seasons in his 16 seasons as a head coach. And when he left USC in 1981, he never coached another college game. So that's why he only had a 16-year career as a head coach. And he's also South Carolina's 3rd winningest coach of all time. Now, I want to get back to Bobby Ingram because a lot of football fans here in South Carolina may not be familiar with his name, but in my opinion, he's one of the best receivers to ever come out of this state. He was recruited by Penn State. He played at Penn State. He also played in the NFL with Seattle and Chicago. And in 2015, when Sean Elliott, during his first stint as a South Carolina assistant, he became the interim head coach when Steve Spurrier resigned. And I sat down with Sean and talked about his high school days because he was a teammate of Bobby Ingram. They won the 1990 state championship. And here's part of the story I did with Elliott talking about his days as a Camden Bulldog. The 1990 Camden Bulldogs finished a perfect 15-0 to win the 3A state championship. USC interim head coach Sean Elliott was a senior defensive end and tight end.
We had talented players, Bobby Ingram, Kerry Hayes, Andre Carter. We had some great talent.
Bobby Ingram was one of the nation's top receivers. He played at Penn State. Ingram made several spectacular catches during Camden's championship run.
There was a pass across the middle, and he laid out just sideways and tapped the ball back to himself and then caught it right as he hit the ground.
It was pretty amazing. Like, we'd turn to coaches, we'd turn to one another and say, did you see that? Can you believe that? Yeah, it was those kind of catches, those kind of plays.
Yeah, I was at that game when he made two of those catches, and it was against Hartsville. Hartsville and Camden is one of the state's oldest rivalries, if not the oldest rivalry. So you always have a packed house. And I was just in amazement at two of the catches that he made. And I asked one of the assistant coaches, I said, what's it like when he drops a pass? They said, you know, they look around, they can't believe it. One time he dropped a pass, came back to the huddle with tears in his eyes, and he said, throw me the ball, caught it, took it for a touchdown. So Bobby Ingram, hey, all four of those guys on the ballot, I think very well deserving of getting elected to the College Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah, Rick, very well said. And there's so many stories. I believe 80 nominees on the Hall of Fame ballot. And it's like, how do you possibly pick between so many legends and legends who you might not even know their full story? And then you come to find out how incredible they truly were, including the Clemson and Gamecocks guys right here. Great connections. And we'll be right back talking about a team going after a title, the Carolina Hurricanes, right after this. Welcome back to Palmetto Sports Daily. Usually we talk about the Palmetto State, but now we're talking about the Tar Heel State real quick. But it's really all the Carolinas, because the Carolina Hurricanes, of course, based in Raleigh, North Carolina, are getting ready for Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final against the Vegas Golden Knights. The first time the Canes are back playing for the Stanley Cup in 2 decades, since they won it in 2006. And they've only been there now 3 total times. Their head coach now was the captain player of that 2006 team. So full circle journey if he was able to win it as a player and a coach for Brindamore. And so, Kevin, what do you think as far as the Canes? Should we expect them to win it all? I mean, they're coming out so quickly also in these first periods, back-to-back games where they went up 3-0 in the first period to win this series in the Eastern Conference Final over the Canadiens. They got a 12-1 record this year in the playoffs, and they look like they could beat anybody, hopefully the Vegas Golden Knights.
Yeah, they've been mowing through teams this entire Stanley Cup playoff. It's been a really impressive performance. I, however, refuse to root for this team just based on the fact that they are nothing but dirty thieves or stealing this franchise from a hardworking blue-collar city like Hartford, Connecticut, which was, I believe, 28, 29 years ago. Not going to stand for this. It was despicable back then. Just because it's been almost 3 decades doesn't make it any less despicable now, Rick.
Kevin, some alarming accusations, but I'm not surprised. Knowing how you defend your New England teams, but I've got a question for you. Okay, we've got the Hurricanes from Raleigh, North Carolina. We've got Las Vegas. What happened to the Canadian hockey teams? What's going on with some of your longtime hockey franchises? Your Boston Bruins, the New York Rangers, the Chicago Blackhawks, the Detroit Red Wings. What is happening?
He's coming after the whole league,
when these baby franchises are coming along and playing for it all.
He's not. Is he the spokesman of the NHL?
Yes.
Apparently, I'm the spokesman.
On this show, he is.
6 here.
Yeah.
It's tougher to get these guys to want to play up north when they could just move down to Florida or move down to the Carolinas and pay less taxes and live in better weather for half the year. So that's the biggest problem a lot of these Canadian teams are facing, even the Northeast teams right now, even though, you know, the Bruins have won a Stanley Cup in the last couple of decades. So they've got that. The Rangers, who cares? They're still garbage. So the Blackhawks won. I think they won. That's uncalled for. So I don't think it's that bad, Rick.
But wouldn't the NHL be better if you had the Canadians winning
Oh yeah.
winning a
Well, look
a
at that atmosphere
championship
in Montreal.
every few years, except every few decades, it's like it's like Major League Baseball. You know, if the Yankees become totally irrelevant, if Boston becomes totally irrelevant, the Dodgers totally irrelevant, it's not as much fun. The same in the NBA. You want the Celtics to be relevant, the
Knicks.
Lakers, Philadelphia,
The Knicks.
and I'm really excited because the Knicks they're back in the
Yes.
finals, and I'm really looking forward to a packed Madison Square Garden, the organ playing.
Yes.
It's going to be a great atmosphere.
Ba,
Are we out
ba,
of time, producer Nick?
ba, 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 ba.
Okay,
That was the order.
Carmine, play us out. Play us out. Take us to break.
Ba, ba. We'll be right back after this break. Ba, ba. Closing out Palmetto Sports Daily with some big-time news, a big week here in the Upstate, not just because the BMW Charity Pro-Am is here for the Corn Ferry Tour, but also because we have a new opening of a stadium, GE Vernova Park, which is at Bridgeway Station in Malden. There they are, cutting the ribbon, the Greenville Triumph and Liberty's new home in a shopping district, restaurants, and Game 1 is already sold out. Here's their head coach about the excitement of this milestone moment.
Every night there's something, something's going on. There's people everywhere. I think we'll be able to attract new fans, right? So not necessarily just new Greenville Triumph fans. I also think new fans to soccer, obviously with this summer and the World Cup and the excitement of that. I think that we'll find ourselves having some walk-ups that get attached to it and hopefully become lifelong fans.
That would be the goal, but very exciting because they've been playing at Furman's Paladin Stadium for 8 years. Ever since they started, they played at different parks all around, of course, at the away teams as well, but they've never had a home to call their own for either the Triumph or the Liberty. So big time moment, and we're carrying more than a dozen of these Greenville Triumph, which is the USL, one league lower than the MLS, live and for free on our Palmetto Sports and Entertainment Network starting tomorrow at 7 o'clock. But we'll see you right back here tomorrow as well for more Palmetto Sports Daily.